Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new show here on Never Again Canada called Uninterrupted, where we are going to bring you the news that the mainstream media and other news outlets either don't want to tell you about, don't feel like they need to cover, but the point of this show will be to bring you entertaining, hard-hitting news that you don't get anywhere else. So welcome Charlotte as the first ever viewer of the show. You get a special live shout out. So what I'm going to do is just wait for everyone to come in. I think that's what being here. Hey there, BJ. And what we're going to do is let's just try and get this out as far as we can. So what we're going to do tonight is we got a lot of news stories to cover. Our main story tonight, the top story of the hour, we're going to cover the Toronto terrorist attack. There is a lot of things that have not been said that should be said. We're then going to go over all the possible narratives. After that, we have this breaking story that Barack Obama's administration willingly and knowingly funded a terrorist affiliate. We also have news that Trudeau is backing down on his carbon tax, but doing it in the worst possible way. We'll get into the thing there. There's also the story Canada was not invited to the big boy table when it comes to trade. The North American Free Trade Agreement, which there are 3 countries in North America, if you had Justin Trudeau as a geography teacher, and Canada was not invited, was not in the top 3 countries of NAFTA. So that is not good news for Canadian trade. We'll get into that. We also have some news about Donald Trump. And then we'll talk a bit about things are escalating in Iran. There is an uprising against the regime. There is a lot of good news coming out of the Islamic Republic as it relates to, we'll say, Zionism, liberty, basic Western values, a lot of good news coming out of the Middle East. Now, just to give everyone an introduction on the show, this is going to be a live show. We're going to do this once a week here on Never Again and wherever else it gets shared. Feel free to interact. The point of this is to, give you news that you can also feel is personable and relatable. And I am not Ian Hannamansing speaking in the generic reporter voice. Tonight, Justin Trudeau, a god or a demigod? Let's discuss, right? You're not going to get any of that. We're going to do good news. And you know what? When you ask questions, try and be a little specific because there is a time delay as we're doing this live. So don't say, what do you mean about that? Just say, what do you mean about what you said about the carbon tax? And we can interact better. Also, if you're watching this when it's not live, if you don't see the live thing up there, don't ask me questions. You will look silly when I wake up at 3 a.m. and say, oh, they're asking questions and I'm asleep. And also, if you're on YouTube right now, this is not live. So hello, Morris. Good to see everyone here. Listening from Alabama. Nice. Good old Americans in the house. Love it. So you might ask, when I go into certain things like politics, how does this have to do with Never Again's mandate of fighting against racism, anti-Semitism, and the global threat to, the Jewish people? I will make the argument that modern leftist policies and left-wing politicians, especially in the vein of people like Justin Trudeau, present an existential threat to the Jewish people. And I think that applies to American Western values as well. I think the case for Zionism and sort of this we call civic light nationalism, just basic nationalism, the right to have a country, the right to have borders, the right to say, hey, we are Canadian, hey, our neighbors are American, that's okay. Mexico's another country, Bosnia is a country. Countries can be countries. I think we're missing a lot of that. The radical left is trying to break that down. So I see these 2 battles as connected. So that is why I get this. Okay, John Loves is ready. Listening from Denmark. Awesome, Denmark. I wish I knew some Danish, but Timmins, Ontario. Nice to see you, Kevin. Southern Jersey here. All right, so this is the theme of the show. We're going to do news. First, a little bit of word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by the number 7. The number 7, a great number, a huge number. Number 7, a bit hard to divide and multiply by, but it represents American football. And without American football, you would be watching soccer, and then life would suck. So again, this episode sponsored by the number 7. All right, and now our first story of the night, the Toronto terrorist attack. I put in the title chemical weapons because this is really important to talk about. Oh, second generation America. We got Florida and Edmonton. I love it. People from everywhere. So there's been a lot of talk about the terrorist attack in Toronto. If you were listening to the CBC, our national broadcaster, so what your taxpayer dollars are telling you is there is an evil assault gun, an illegal assault gun came over from America, probably made by Donald Trump. We don't know, but let's speculate anyway. And the assault gun had a severe mental illness and killed people, and we have to be really, really sad and apologize to the Faisal Hussein's parents, who obviously are the real victims in all of this. Oh, more people from Bama. Roll Tide. Or Auburn. Whichever one you cheer for, I cheer for them too. Sure. Quebec, bonjour. So this is the case from the media. Gun control. We're talking about gun control. The first thing I will say, if any media pundit seriously utters the phrase gun control in Canada, you should never, ever, ever listen to them again. Americans, if you want to know or Europeans, what is the reason Canada's never had a gun control problem? No one ever said gun control because guns are so highly controlled and regulated in our province and country that you can't add any more laws. One, they weren't even legal guns. Legal gun crime doesn't exist in Canada. In order to get a gun in Canada, you need 2 references. You need 0 history of mental health, cleared from a psychiatrist, and you need a letter from your spouse saying that you're clear. And then there's even rules on how you control it that way. So guns are so highly controlled that there's really not much more we can do to control it. So these are illegals. Anyone who says gun control is a problem, don't listen to them. They are lying to you. They're trying to manipulate you. This is Canada. What are you talking about? Immediately, never listen. That person isn't a reliable news source. They are an ideologue. That's how you know. Hey, no Roll Tide here. I'm sorry for all that. So gun control, throw that out. Immediately, gun control. Now, the second thing we're talking a lot about in the national media is mental illness. If you've been following me, I wrote an article about this, came out yesterday on the Post Millennial. You can go check that out. We'll post a link here. Can you also put that on my Facebook page if you can? I don't like this narrative on mental illness. Okay, so what they're saying about mental illness is saying, oh, he had depression and history of psychosis. Okay, BS. One, if your son has a history of psychosis, and this may be true, how did he get a gun? I have an idea. I can tell you that in a bit. Why do you let him have a gun around the house? Was he ever formed one? Did you try and help him here? And there's another thing we have to talk about is people with mental illness still have agency. Thank you, Bertina, for posting it. So the link to that article is there. There's a big problem with just saying, oh, he's mentally ill, that absolves him of all responsibility. That can't be the case because people with mental illness still make choices. My best friend has schizophrenia. He has gone through psychosis. He has had voices in his head that say, hey, you have to harm people, biker gangs after your niece, and if you don't do it, he picked up a knife. But in that moment, you might have crazy things going in your head. You might have weird motivations, and it's so disjointed, but you still make choices. People with mental illness, even the psychotic ones, they might be living in a bizarre, deluded, crazy fantasy, but they're still making choices in the middle of it, right? Even if Faisal Hussein was going through psychosis at the moment, he was still aiming a gun at a 10-year-old girl and attempting to murder her, okay? This is not acceptable. Canada just released another terrorist who had schizophrenia. Now, this guy actually had schizophrenia, but he served 2 years, didn't even serve here, he had 2 years of therapy. He walked into a Canadian a military recruiting center, stabbed 3 soldiers, had brought the knife with him, had written in his diary that Allah gives him the green light to kill Canadian soldiers. I believe he said, I can kill Canadian soldiers because Canada is killing Muslims in Muslim countries. Trudeau wasn't even bombing anyone, pansy. So we weren't even doing that. But that was he wrote that down in a journal as a justification. That does not sound like the ramblings of a madman in the throes of psychosis. That sounds a lot like the lecture notes of a sociology professor at York University to me. Okay? So people with mental illness can still make choices. You could be mentally ill and a terrorist. You can be an evil person with mental illness. You can be a good person with mental illness. This dismissal of agency of the mentally ill from the left now is a very dangerous thing. It is not helpful. It's equally as bad as when, we'll say the conservative right was saying, it's mentally ill, it's the problem. They're just crazy. Lock them up. This is not, neither of these narratives are helpful. So let's say he had mental illness. This is BS. He still mowed people down, and then he ended up taking his life at the end. This does not sound like mental illness. The only thing that that you can say maybe is not Islamic terrorism. He wasn't yelling Allahu Akbar. Well, Fazl Hussein wasn't yelling it while killing people. And usually they release a video and say, hey, I'm doing this for ISIS. But who knows? He could have sent the CBC a letter saying, hey, I'm ISIS. I'm doing this for ISIS. And they could easily have covered it up. All right. So that's, I'm sure you've all heard the story. And then the big thing is a friend of the family by the name of Mohammed Hashim, I believe, he released a statement on behalf of the family. So the family, Faiz Hussein's family, brother's in a coma, sister died in a car accident, 2 elderly parents who are immigrants. They released this overly professional lawyer speak statement. We are deeply filled with condolence at the bottom of our hearts. We must condemn this act of whatever. And he had this. It doesn't pass the smell test. Obviously, it was written by a third party. This guy claims to be a friend of the family. Here's where things get interesting. Here's the family. So we mentioned his brother is in a coma. His brother, Fareed, he was caught and sentenced for drug dealing. All right. And then the person who paid his bail, his name was Ali Ansari. He had a very wealthy man, good job, no criminal record, this guy. So the judge remanded that he live with this guy. The brother then overdosed supposedly. And 3 months after that, Ali Ansari's apartment was raided. And it was the largest drug bust in Canadian history. They found 42 grams of carfentanil and 33 identical guns. This is likely where Faisal Hussein got the gun to commit the mass murder. These guns are actually not American linked. They actually are likely stolen from Saskatchewan. Yeah. All of today's problems have an excuse, getting really annoying. I totally agree with you, Dylan. You're right about that. So let's back up. So I put chemical weapons in the title here. Carfentanil. So a lot of you might have heard of the fentanyl crisis, the big opioid crisis. Yes, people are getting hooked on heroin, and yes, it's painkillers, but it's taken a lethal turn with the use of fentanyl. Fentanyl is a really cheaply made, originally came out of China, form of hyper-concentrated opioid. It's 50 times stronger than heroin. So, one drop makes you go, whoa, two grains of fentanyl, and you're high as a kite. 3 drops of fentanyl, you're dead. Okay, it's very dangerous. This is why people are overdosing, because it's so small. Carfentanil is 1,000 times stronger than fentanyl, which is 50 times stronger than heroin. 50,000 times stronger than heroin. 1 grain of carfentanil is enough to kill an adult human being. 42 grams of carfentanil is more than enough to kill everyone in Canada twice over. Let me repeat that. The amount of drugs found in Faisal Hussein's brother's apartment was enough to kill everyone in Canada. Carfentanil is not used on the street. No one buys it as a street drug. It's not an economical thing to do, right? You say, here's a hit of carfentanil, and then he's dead, right? It's not a good drug dealing model. Drug dealers tend to try and make money, and drug dealers don't benefit from their clients dying of overdoses because then they lose clientele. So the odds that this is a drug ring are very low. This story is not being replaced in the States. Yeah. So there's a big hush-hush thing in Canada. I can't really comment to how much the American media is going in on it. I mostly only read American media. It's hard to sort of watch it, and CNN is like waterboarding sometimes. If you get tired of the CNN, come up to Canada, watch the CBC, and you'll be whatever. Was it 42 kilograms? Yes, Ariel, is 42 kilograms of carfentanil. So carfentanil is considered it's more deadly than most nerve agents. So most nerve agents used by terrorists, carfentanil is more deadly. So the likely overdose from his brother was just being around the carfentanil. And people just handling this drug bust got sick. It's very, very dangerous. So let's just back up. 42 kilograms of carfentanil, the street value, if he was a drug dealer, is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So you're telling me it's a 3 or maybe 2-man operation because Pfizer was saying it was a mentally ill person who was nothing. You're telling me it's a 2-man operation with some loser and one wealthy guy to deal drugs? No, it's likely, right? Carfentanil is considered as a chemical agent by the Americans, the Israelis, and the Chinese, other countries as well. But that is a big problem. So you're looking at the largest either drug bust or chemical weapons raid in Canadian history. Then the brother of this goes ISIS, or he doesn't go ISIS. He just murdered everyone for diversity's sake. Who knows? Who knows what Justin Trudeau would say? Why did I not hear about the carfentanil until today? I hear more about marijuana bust. Yeah, no one talked about it. It was so hush-hush. When this came out, like this was by a few people digging. The CBC, our national news media, is failing us rapidly. So it's not unreasonable for Canadians to be alarmed, especially Torontonians. I'm from Toronto. We're in Toronto right now. You should be alarmed because there is a high potential that we have an active terrorist cell out there that is highly connected. They have access to hundreds of billions of dollars of street value of carfentanil, and they were able to rob a Saskatchewan gun store and then bring those into an apartment in Ontario. This does not sound like a 2 or 3 man operation. I'm sorry, but usually 2 or 3 man operations run out of apartment don't have connections to hundreds of billions of dollars. So what we're looking at, it's probably a connection between Afghani drug rings and terrorism. They have gone hand in hand. Drug dealers and the Taliban have had connections. This Faisal Hussein had gone to, we do have reports that he went to sympathetic ISIS-related websites and left pro-ISIS comments. So this does not pass the smell test. The more and more we look at this story, it looks like Islamic terrorism. Surprise. I know everyone is shocked that the person who murdered everyone did it for Islamic terrorism. But we still hear this mental health narrative, right? Right away. The media was saying, oh, what could we do better? Like, how could we have avoided this if he had just got counseling? Like, listen, if you have any experience with mentally ill, 1 in 3 Canadians suffer mental illness. I'm sure these numbers same in America. I'm sure all of you listening saying, hey, my aunt has this and she's a good person, or my brother has this, and 1% of the population has schizophrenia. You guys all know people with mental illness, and they're not deranged murderers. I'm assuming so. That's that. Estimated 3 to 20 million. No, Daryl Kenny. It's not grams. They're not grams. It's kilograms. Kilograms. A kilogram is 1,000 grams. 42 kilograms is 1,000 grams. The street value of this carfentanil, because carfentanil is 1,000 times more potent than regular fentanyl, 50 times more potent than heroin. The street value is insane. Susie, I'm the only one reporting this. Very few people are. If you follow the Quiggin report, Tom Quiggin is a very good, he is a court-certified intelligence agent. He has history with the United Nations and global security. He's been very good in reporting this. So I have been able to piece this together. There was a story in The Sun about this, but you have to go find this. And there is so much more disinformation out there than information coming in right now, especially around stories like this. So it's pretty clear that the CBC is running, and the Toronto Star are running obfuscation and cover for terrorism. And it's not because they're terrorists, it's probably because they're useless idiots. That's more likely the situation. Oh, hello, David Kupchik, friend from high school. Trudeau loves terrorists. We want to integrate them. Trudeau does love terrorists. He believes they are a powerful voice for our next generation if they can de-radicalize. However, he hasn't invited Maajid Nawaz, a de-radicalized terrorist, to speak at Parliament yet. So I don't really know what's going on. All right, let's bring this back to Mohammed Hashem, who is the guy who made the third-party statement. So we have this man, Mohammed Hashem, who is part of the National Council of Canadian Muslims, NCCM. He is also a progressive organizer. He does work for the NDP. The NDP, if you're wondering, that's our socialist party. They're basically free everything for everyone all the time. Okay, the NCCM is going to be... it's going to be a bit complicated. You have to stay with me. I'm going to go through a lot of the affiliations. And I will say, if you want to know more about this, next week, our main story and focus will be the sort of Islamist-affiliated Muslim Brotherhood groups that are operating in Canada, the United States, how connected they are, who they're connected to, when you hear what groups, what they're doing, who you should be skeptical of, who's legitimate, who's not legitimate. That'll be next week's main story. So how this is going to work is the first part is going to be like main news stories. Then I'm going to give you a piece of news that makes me just smile and laugh, my funniest news story of the week. Then I'm going to do the one that makes me the absolute angriest. And then we're going to get into our main topic for tonight. And tonight's main topic is going to be Israel and its current geopolitical situation. As I said, I will tell you what the Israeli government wants to say to you, but cannot say to you. So we will give a complete breakdown of the geopolitical situation for Israel, what they need to do, what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in the Golan, what's happening in the north, what is Israel's strategy going into negotiations. All of that will be broken down as the final part of our show. And at the end, I will take questions also intermittently. Ryan Egan, do I have a YouTube channel? Not yet. This is the first episode, and I will have a YouTube channel. This will go into YouTube tomorrow. It will just be under my name, Daniel Boardman, for now. I will have other shows on Facebook Live, and this whole show will be on YouTube tomorrow. And I'll also put clips of the show will be cut and put onto YouTube starting tomorrow. So tomorrow is when it all starts. This is the inaugural video. All right. Hello, Deborah from Ottawa. Was he planning an attack on the U.S.? Listen, we don't know if he was planning an attack on the U.S. Likely he is planning an attack on Canada. This terror cell looks like it's Canadian based. It's hard to bring drugs over the border, so it would be much easier to try and release it in the stadium, the ACC. It looks like it was an attempted mass casualty attack in Canada. All right, Vancouver Island. Everyone's in the house, loving it. I love guys. I'm loving it when you say where you're listening from now. It's really cool, especially if Denmark and still here in Alabama. Always fun to there. Hey there, bud. Hello from Jefferson. Ooh, Jefferson is, I'm guessing I know there's a Jefferson, Missouri, but Thomas Jefferson is a great man. So there's probably a lot of different Jeffersons. Okay. So here's the final part. So we're going to talk about the NCCM, the National Council of Canadian Muslims. That's the man who released a statement. They are the propaganda wing for the Muslim Brotherhood in Canada. And I'll explain that statement. They used to be called CARECAN. So Americans might know the organization CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations. Their Canadian affiliate is CARECAN. And court documents and internal documents from CARECAN said, yes, CARE is our parent agency, and CARECAN, now the NCCM, it's legally registered in America and Washington. So it is CARE, all right? They changed their name in 2013 because of controversy. All right, so CARE was started by the Islamic Association for Palestine, a Hamas front group. Hamas is a terrorist organization, started in 1993. So CARECAN was established and run by a man named Jamal Badawi. Jamal Badawi, in a 1992 internal documents from the Muslim Brotherhood, they list Jamal Badawi as their head of Dawah in Canada. That is proselytization. Jamal Badawi is listed by name by the Muslim Brotherhood as their head of Dawah, and he is in charge of spreading the message. The message as laid out in that internal document is global jihad. Global jihad, defined by the Muslim Brotherhood in that bracket, is the process of destroying the West by infiltrating its institutions and bringing it down from the inside. That was a stated goal of Dawah. Jamal Badawi was in charge of that, and he was the head of the National Council of Canadian Muslims, or it was known CARECAN back in the day. Once a lot of stories broke about him in 2013, they changed the name, the NCCM, but they also released a statement saying, hey, we're still the same organization, CARECAN, it's just a cosmetic name change. But no, they are still Muslim Brotherhood, and they are still, it was in Missouri, good, okay, the state of Jefferson, yeah. Dan, this group, Gordon, I'm totally with you. This is one of the goals of this program will be to eventually have a Canadian government try and ban and outlaw the Muslim Brotherhood. I want the Muslim Brotherhood and all affiliates labeled as terrorist organizations. However, the NCCM, they are a go-to analyst from the CBC, the Toronto Star, and the government often refers to the NCCM for counsel, like the Motion 103, the M103 motion. The NCCM was consulted on. What should our Islamophobia laws be, Muslim Brotherhood? So obviously not good. All right, this being said, so this is the NCCM. They are not to be trusted. There's other organizations like the Muslim Association of Canada, the ISNA, which Mohammed Shem was associated with. The NCCM were the ones pushing for this Islamophobia Awareness Day. If you hear July 29th needs to be Islamophobia Day because of the Quebec mosque, that is pushed and headed by the NCCM. They're foreign funded. They're Brotherhood affiliated. Whenever you see the NCCM, think Muslim Brotherhood. You're not being a bigot. If you want to refer back to me, eventually, hopefully next week we'll go break into it. There'll be a YouTube clip. You can send that to your friends when they say, no, the NCCM, it's just, happy-go-lucky, whatever people. So Mohammed Hashem, he was involved in the hijab hoax. This organization is not to be trusted. They are not to be listened to. All right. So that is where we're at with the Toronto terrorist attack. It is likely Islamic terrorism. It is highly suspicious that a Muslim Brotherhood group was friends with this family of drug dealers and mentally ill. I thought this guy was so depressed and delusional his entire life he couldn't make friends. So did Mohammed Hashem, was he friends with the dead sister? That seems unlikely. Was he friends with the brother who was a drug dealer caught in the largest drug bust in Canadian history, who had basically chemical weapons on him? Who are you friends with, Mohammed Hashem? And why isn't the media asking these questions? This story is explosive, right? Think of how explosive this story could be if the media actually wanted to cover chemical weapons. But it seems like we can't talk about a potential chemical weapons attack and the fact that we probably have a large active terrorist cell. To be fair to the Canadian government, maybe CSIS is in the process of destroying this Canadian cell. Maybe they're going after it and they hit it hard. And maybe Faisal Hussein was the last one left, so he just decided to grab a gun and do whatever he could and ended it there. Maybe that's the case. Maybe. But I do not trust I do not trust this government. This terrorist attack, other than being a tragedy, is a complete failure of our political class and the Fourth Estate. All right, Muslim Student Association. Yes, that will be part of next week's big thing. You're right. Students. Mohammed Hashem was also part of the Muslim Students Association too. They are Brotherhood affiliated. All right. So moving on to our next story. Barack Hussein Obama. Actually, no, I'm going to give one more final commentary. A lot of people, I'm going to call out the right wing here, and a lot of people. I have a different opinion from a lot of you. A lot of people are angry that Justin Trudeau has taken 10 days off since he hasn't been seen. He just flew in from Vancouver, left surfing to do a photo op near the dead kids, smiled, and then went back to surfing. And people are angry about this. I am not. I'm ecstatic. I want this vacation to go on forever. Don't come back to office. What do you guys really want from Justin Trudeau? What's he going to do? What will Justin Trudeau do in this situation to make anything better? Can anyone think of anything Justin Trudeau would say to make this better? Or is he just going to come back, tell us that he's very sorry that a backlash hit the Muslim community and talk about Islamophobia laws and then apologize and declare Faisal Hussein's parents national heroes? Like, that's the only thing he's going to do is give the parents the Order of Canada. So stay on vacation. Keep surfing. Surf your heart to your heart's desire, Justin. All right. You're doing great. This has been the best 10 days of your prime ministership. Stay in your island. Surf away. I don't care. Take your nanny. Fine. We're paying taxpayer dollars for your nanny. We'll double it. I will double the nanny's salary from my own pocket if you just stay in Vancouver and surf for the next year and a half. Okay? That is my offer. Moving on. All right. All right, let's do this. Story number 2, Barack Obama. Everyone's favorite, Barack Obama. Barack Obama's administration was linked to a scandal this week, and it got nowhere. And this is, again, a failure of the Fourth Estate. It has been shown in records that Obama's administration, there's no links to Barack Obama himself doing this, but Obama's administration, which means his fault, knowingly funded a Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda affiliate. So there is a Sudan-based charity, as they call them. It is the Islamic Relief Agency, ISRA. It has, or IARA. ISRA is what I will call it because that's what they're most known as. They were linked to Osama bin Laden. It was shown that they had sent monies to and weapons to jihadists, and they had sheltered bin Laden and been in contact with him. So in 2004, the Americans designated the ISRA a terrorist affiliate, and you cannot fund them. It is illegal. They're a terrorist affiliate, as noted by the American government. So in 2014, for some reason, the American government gives a grant to World Vision. World Vision, if you were following our live video, Never Again, World Vision, the same organization that mocked the prayer for, we were doing mourner's Kaddish for the Israeli soldiers killed, and this World Vision guy was just mocking and condescending the whole thing. So his organization, World Vision, had about a $7 million grant fund, and a sub-grant within that was about $200,000 marked for the ISRA. And that got bogged down because the USA Aid said, hold on and giving that payment because that is a designated terrorist organization. So there's this big thing where they were reviewing the ISRA, and World Vision sent a letter to the Obama administration saying, hey, let us give them money. They're a really good agency, even though they're a proven funder of terrorism. World Vision, you can guess what way they lean politically. Hillary. So that is a big problem. So there's this big legal battle, and World Vision pushed, and then the Obama administration in 2015 said, yeah, I know they're terrorists, but yeah, go ahead, give them the money. And what? Like, knowingly funded terrorism? So this is sort of Obama's thing. He knowingly let Hezbollah run amok in South America, let them run drugs, took restrictions off them. He actually quashed a couple investigations into Hezbollah. This is not good. Like, this is, again, a failure of the Fourth Estate. And people wonder why people, conservatives and Republicans, don't trust the media when they scream about Russia conspiracies. Trump is a Russian spy. Trump is a traitor. Trump is a Russian blah, 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 blah. Dude, Barack Obama knowingly gave money to terrorists, and no one's talking about it. You want to talk about treason? Well, we can talk about Hillary's emails, but that is a story for another day. So this is why I think maybe my friends from Alabama, if they are, if they voted for Trump, whatever, they can probably consider. This is why we don't believe the Russian hubbub. Also, the story makes no sense logically or coherently. I'd love to do. We'll do a special on the Russia conspiracy and how ridiculous that is eventually. I'm not saying he doesn't say bad things about Russia sometimes, but he's been like the hardest. Donald Trump is. Listen, I hate Donald Trump's rhetoric on Russia. I really hate it. I really hated it. I loved when Stephen Harper said to Vladimir Putin, "I will shake your hand, but you stay out of the Ukraine." Love Stephen Harper when he said that. And I don't like Trump's rhetoric. But Trump has been the hardest president on Russia since the end of the Cold War. And that's really not debatable on a policy level. World Vision, isn't that a Christian organization? Yeah, it's a Christian organization. But, you know, it's just one of those things. World Vision, it's all, once you call these things a charity, and when you get this whole left wing, you know, just love and be loved, and no, we can just hug the terrorism away. I think that's their mentality, and it's the willful blindness is really dangerous, really dangerous. So this is why I think it's really important to bring up these issues. Jeremiah, it's Hillary. No, we don't say that. Hillary, we all love Hillary Clinton here. And no one on this live episode has any information on the Clinton Foundation, probably the most charitable foundation of all time. Again, I do not want to commit suicide. Hillary Clinton is great. She is the best. She is not corrupt in any way. Give money to the Clinton Foundation. I don't know how to blink SOS. So this is where we are. So that's Obama. That story, and again, the real story is, why didn't CNN cover that? Why didn't MSNBC cover that? It is a big scandal to have a president, administration, knowingly fund terrorism. Think about it for a year and then say, okay, fine, it's just terrorism. You know, nothing bad happens when you give terrorists money. We're still gonna. Okay. So let us move on to some more Canadian news, Canadian American news. Canada was not invited to the big boy table in the NAFTA meetings. Again, there are 3 countries in North America: Canada, America, Mexico. They have a free trade agreement called NAFTA. Now, we can talk about some problems with NAFTA. I'm a big free trade guy. I think Trump's rhetoric on trade, I do not like it. I don't like his rhetoric on trade. I do like what happened with the EU. I like when Trump says, hey, if we can all get down to 0 tariffs, let's get down to 0 tariffs. Again, I back Maxime Bernier. Canada doesn't even have free trade within Canada. You know, screw the Quebec dairy farmers and the milk mafia. Knock down those tariffs. Canada, we spend like millions of dollars a year subsidizing dairy products, and they somehow made that, and it makes them more expensive, because to explain Canadian trade into Canada would make your head explode. And we'll do it one day, and then I'll die of an aneurysm, and that hopefully that video goes viral. But for now, let's try and keep me alive with talking about different things. So let's read some. Clinton and Trudeau are best friends. They're fake news. Maybe we should talk about Canada. Yes, so we're going to talk about Canada, Jake. So Canada was not invited to a trade meeting between the United States and Mexico, and this is really indicative of Trudeau's policy when it comes to America. And this is something he's doing really dangerous for Canada. It seems like Trump is just saying a lot of things. And the game with Trump is he says a lot of things, and then at the end of the day, in private, he'll negotiate like a reasonable person. You just kind of have to suck up the rhetoric and go in and make a reasonable deal. And you can come out the other way. It's a lot of blowhard, and then he's actually quite reasonable when you get down to the brass tacks. However, Justin Trudeau's administration is playing a very dangerous game. To me, it looks like they're playing a game of they're trying to be the anti-Trump politician party to the world. This serves no purpose for Canadian interests. Canadian interests are about having good relations with America. All right, this is why Stephen Harper is one of the greatest prime ministers of all time. Our relationship with the United States was at an all-time high when Stephen Harper left office. He was a great man on trade and all this. And Justin Trudeau has flushed basically 50 years of Canadian diplomacy down the toilet. Trudeau is playing a game where it really looks like he's planning on Trump being impeached or losing the House and the Senate and losing again in 2020. It really looks like Trudeau's administration is playing that game. They have tried to undermine Trump on the global stage. Trump is furious with them. Our trade minister, Chrystia Freeland, who went to Europe and then cried in French. It was a disgrace. She is hated by the Americans. They do not like her. They see Trudeau as trying to go behind their backs a lot, which he has done. All right, so I do have some insider information a bit on NAFTA negotiations. Okay, this is not fact, but this is rumor from some people I know who are involved in trade. The story that it goes, and I'll tell you why I think this is a reasonable assumption, is that in the NAFTA negotiations, Trudeau was offered the sunset clause. He was offered a clause of basically the trade NAFTA could extend 5 more years and negotiate later. That is the best thing for Trudeau. Trudeau should have signed that in a second. But Trudeau tried to push gender equality. What's his thing? Gender-focused trade or whatever. I can't remember. Some sort of, we need gender conditions and, some sort of, feminist qualifications to NAFTA. And the Americans just looked at him like, what? And they're like, no, we need a feminist NAFTA. And then they just walked out of negotiations, said tariffs. Like, we're not dealing with this guy. And that might sound ridiculous. Like, okay, you're just making fun of Justin Trudeau for being a fucking gender studies, blah, blah, blah. However, on television in China, when meeting with the Chinese president on trade, he started going on this, we need a gender neutral trade, and started talking about the Chinese, in order to get a deal, need to go to gender equality. And the Chinese are looking like, what? You're really talking about like gender equality in China, the place where it's like 80 billion boys and 3 girls. Like, we're talking about a gender balanced trade with China. No. So the fact that he did that on TV, and I actually saw that one with my own 2 eyes and went, hey, what the hell is happening? What is he doing? What is this idiot? Like, that is why I think this insider information is more likely. Uncontrolled immigration, long-term effects. Do you feel mass deportations are coming after the Liberals are wiped out? I'm not sure if Scheer has the cojones or the chutzpah to do that. I would hope so. Listen, there's an easy solution to this border crisis. Like, listen, I don't have a problem with immigration. I don't have a problem with taking in refugees. I have a problem with illegal immigration and mass migration. And when you do refugees from like one specific place very poorly. And those are the real problems we're dealing with. So Canada has people flooding into the border from the United States. All the prime minister needs to do is go out and say, you cannot claim asylum from America. America is a safe country. Anyone who claims asylum from America will be deported. We will reject all claims. Instead, we're putting them up in hotels on taxpayer money. Yes, American friends, you want a vacation? Cross over into Canada. Say you're claiming asylum. If you want to make your asylum claim more legitimate, just say things like death to America, death to Israel, global caliphate, and all that, and you'll be put up in a hotel for free. You can thank me for those. You take your family on a vacation somewhere nice. Come to Toronto. Say hello. Yeah. It is beyond ridiculous. Yeah, I agree. Gender has nothing to do with money. So let's not pretend that Justin Trudeau is a competent trade master. Now, really good news, actually half good news, half bad news. So Justin Trudeau kind of caved on the carbon tax. The carbon tax for any Americans listening is stupid. It is. I remember reading it about a year and a half ago, the original thing, like, what is the carbon tax? No one really knows. It's a nebulous tax on carbon. Again, I'm exhaling a lot of carbon dioxide. Should this be taxed? Like, everything is carbon. We're carbon-based life forms. What are you really talking about? This is basically a tax on everything for the environment that will do nothing. The carbon tax is more likely to fund Al-Qaeda than save one tree, in my opinion. All right, it's a stupid tax. It is a cash grab. We do not need it. And this is where I think Doug Ford has earned the nickname I gave him, the Duggernaut. TM me. He backed down a bit in the carbon tax, but only for big businesses. And this is the Liberals. So I have this saying that I like to tell to my left-wing friends who are not very political. Everything you think you hate about the Republican Party is really the Liberal Party. So what I mean by that is there is this assumption, wrongly, that the Republicans just care about rich people and they love corporations more than people, and Republicans love big business and they just love giving money to corporations because they're corporate slaves to money and rich and blah 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 blah, blah, blah. Nonsense. Yeah, you've heard it all from your friends. You don't need me to regurgitate all that nonsense. But this is actual liberal policy. This is what the Liberals have done. We had the sponsorship scandal before Harper took office. They give big cuts to corporations, and this is, again, like part of Ontario's economy. Kathleen Wynne, she loosened all this lobbying restrictions. She was the one who brought lobbying into Canadian politics, brought these big businesses in Ontario. So the Liberals increase tax on the working man and then give subsidies to corporations. Subsidies to corporations, that's what the Liberals do, and the Liberals have to do that in Ontario. Basically, Ontario is so screwed. Our economy before Doug Ford was getting into, it was held in by a string. We had all these high corporate taxes and high taxes that companies wanted to bail out. We actually gave Toyota $220 billion when they were making profits. Everyone's like, why are we funding Toyota? That's because Toyota wanted to move their plants out of Ontario because it's so expensive to do business here that we literally have to bribe them with the tax money we take from them to force them to stay in Ontario. So it's a big unproductive cycle. That is liberal economics. I don't think anyone in Kathleen Wynne's Liberal Party passed or listened to high school economics. If you took 11th grade economics and you work in the liberal wins government, shame on you. Shame on you. You did not learn anything. Trudeau's Obama's son. He's actually the thing we say is he's Fidel Castro's son. Carbon tax is a carbon neutral country. Makes no sense. Yes, Jim, it makes no sense. It drives me up the wall. And climate Barbie. Yes, Catherine McKenna. We'll get into her more later. Oh, we're getting long. So that's carbon tax. So good. And I blame or give a lot of credit to Doug Ford here. Trudeau, when he got into office, had a bunch of yes men. He only had Saskatchewan saying no to him sometimes at the corner. But now Saskatchewan, Ontario, even PEI, like Prince Edward Island, have joined against the carbon tax. And this is really good for Canadians who want the Conservatives to win, because in order for Justin Trudeau to run on his values, remember, he ran to the left of the NDP in his last election. In order for him to run on his traditional Justin Trudeau values, he is going to need to run against the will of the Ontario people, the Saskatchewan people. Alberta's also against the carbon tax now. He'll have to run against all these people. He's in a very incoherent state politically. He doesn't really understand because he's not a political creature. He doesn't understand politics that well. So he's really backed himself into a corner. But again, the carbon tax is only being cut for big businesses, small businesses, middle-class people, people like you and me. We will still have to pay the carbon tax. But Justin Trudeau's billionaire friends won't. That's the way it is. All right, moving on. Another story. There was a bombshell story dropped this week. It turns out, through the records of Michael Cohen's leak to the FBI and the Mueller investigation, we have found out that once, a few years ago, Donald Trump asked politely to have a Coke. So, to recap, Donald Trump, a few years ago, once asked an employee to bring him a Coke. Was it a Coca-Cola? Was it a Diet Coca-Cola? We do not know. We also do know that when he was first made president, he got 2 scoops of ice cream when everyone else got 1. Did he save that scoop of ice cream and put it in this Coca-Cola to make a cold float? We do not know. We need to impeach Donald Trump because of this Coke. We need Robert Mueller in the Oval Office right now, finding out, was it a vanilla Coke, which is the best flavor? Was it a lime Coke, which is an inferior flavor of Coke, and the president should not be drinking that? Is it a Coke Zero? We don't know. We don't know any of these questions, but we need to impeach Trump right now and find out who got him that Coca-Cola, why he drank that Coca-Cola, and what we can do to prevent future Coca-Cola related incidents. Okay. Moving on. We have good news in the Middle East. We'll cover this briefly. Uprisings in Iran have continued. We'll get into this in a main story, but we'll be into Israel. But just so you know, the Iranian people are fighting against the Islamic Republic of Iran right now, and that is very, very good for anyone who loves America, Canada, Israel, or any Western values. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the chief financer of terrorism in the world right now. It needs to be taken care of, and the people of Iran are going to be our big allies. And I'll get into the geopolitical situation going on soon. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you about my favorite story of the week that makes me laugh. And then I'm going to tell you about my least favorite story of the week that makes me angry, and hopefully you all get angry with me. And then I will go into our main topic for tonight, which is the geopolitical situation in Israel. But first, we're going to do a word from our sponsors. So just to let you know, this program is brought to you by Barack Obama. Barack Obama, if you want to look popular while doing an absolute failure of your job, I highly suggest Barack Obama. Think of it, you're living in your family, you have a nice home, you have a wife who loves you, and you have Hezbollah living in your basement. What are you going to do? How is Hezbollah going to grow? What you need is Barack Obama. If you have Barack Obama, you can let that Hezbollah cell grow unabated in your basement, and hopefully one day they will be strong enough and well-financed enough to take over your house and kill your family in your sleep. Barack Obama. Again, I do not advertise any product on this show that I do not use myself. I myself use Barack Obama daily, and I've been using it for the last 2 years. Right now, my neighbor is flying an ISIS flag, and everyone on the street loves me for no apparent reason. So again, this program brought to you by Barack Obama. Barack Obama, how to fail at your job while still being really popular for no particular reason. All right. So my favorite story of the week, the one that makes me just laugh and brings me unbridled joy, is the Doug Ford abolishing 22 seats on city council in Toronto. This is hilarious, and it's the best political strategy move I've seen in a while. So he reduced council size from 47 to 25. This is an assault on democracy. I love the media figure. Oh, is this? It's Hitler. Is this? One, I love it because it's going to force. He basically tricked the CBC into running his 2022 re-election campaign right now. Who cares about Toronto city councillors? These are the idiots. Whenever the Leafs have a playoff game and the Jays have a home game, the subways close for track repairs. Why? Every time that happens, we should fire a city council. It should be ridiculous. Like, do you know your city council person? Do you know who represents you at city council? I don't. I'm a politics nerd, okay? I found math fun. I think math is fun, and I follow this every day of my life. I don't know who my guy is. I have no idea. I have no idea who these people are. All I know is they suck, they're horrible at their jobs, and they're millionaires who have all these benefits. I love it. Get rid of 25, and it's assault on democracy. We didn't do this. Listen, okay, here's an actual reasoning behind this. I will give you a legitimate reason. You can tell it to your friends why it's a good idea. When it comes to municipal politics and politics at this such a low level, especially in the city of Toronto, the only people who have a real voice in this politics are like the crazies. It's like, we need a fountain dedicated to cats. Literally a thing my brother saw at a rally. But it's a lot of special interests. And when you have it divided by 47, these councillors have to deal with fewer special interests, which are so highly pushed on them that they end up vying for that. But when you increase the size of people they represent, it's harder for special interests because it gets so crowded to get in there and influence municipal politics. So one, they're highly inefficient, let's save money. And two, this actually has the idea to streamline city council, which is so ineffective right now, and actually does cut down, especially in a big city, on special interest lobbying. So it is a good thing, and I find it hilarious. All right, trying to budget out of control for decades. Yeah, it's all true. So I have no, and it forces people to say, oh no, think of the city councilors. People hate politicians. So when the left has to get up there and be like, Doug Ford doesn't like the political class. Oh no. And the media has to freak out because all their friends are in politics are forcing them to freak out. So it just makes the political class and the media look really bad, and it's hilarious. It's just a really fun stuff. Plus the Thanos meme with him destroying the, that's hilarious. Now, the story that makes me the angriest this week, the one that fills me with rage, you're going to find a surprise. I didn't know who this person was until it happened this week, but Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato overdosed on heroin or something, and it's not her, okay? People can do heroin, you know, pretty women can sing songs. I don't have a problem with her singing songs, probably auto-tuned. I've never heard any of them. I don't know her music. You could love me or hate me. My choice in music is pretty abysmal, so don't take this too seriously. What I am complaining about is the media coverage of this, and this is sort of, if you read that article I wrote, there needs to be a line in between. And this is really frustrating me. The outgoing is support, and we must support Demi, and we have to interview all her friends. And it's just, it gives this person so much attention. It says to a potentially quasi-suicidal girl, hey, look, she got all this attention by doing this overdose. You can do it too. Like, you pop a bunch of Tylenol and do that. It is really, you haven't heard anyone say that she made a mistake. Not saying, hey, she's an addict, lock her up, throw her away. That's wrong. But this overwhelming unconditional love and support is also wrong. You need to have a media that realizes, hey, she made a mistake. Yes, she's still a human being. No, we're not going to idolize this. You don't get a bunch of, we can pump up her recovery story once she gets out, but this trauma and chasing the drama of the overdose, it is really unhelpful, and it really hurts young women. All right, uninterrupted. Hey there, Robbie. Hi from Chicago. Love you guys. Oh, Laura, well, it's just me now. I'm going solo. Sorry to break it to you. Give me a shout out, Darren. Darren, you get a shout out. You have to tell me where you're from, though. Darren, you got a shout out, but you have to tell me where you're listening from now. All right. So our main story, as promised, is the geopolitical situation in Israel. So this isn't so much news-based. This is just going to be a breakdown of where Israel is. There's a lot of pressure coming from the Jewish community, the right, and the left. I'll tell you why Israel is doing what it's doing and why it's probably not doing what you want it to do right now if you're a Zionist and you're angry at Hamas for trying to, destroy the place. So the real threat to Israel is on the north. All the drama is happening in Gaza. Now, there's a lie that they're occupying Gaza. Israel did ethnically cleanse Gaza, but it ethnically cleansed Gaza of all its Jews. So the Jews were ethnically cleansed out of Gaza by Israel. All the resources were given to Gaza, the greenhouses, the infrastructure. They burned it all down, elected Hamas, and now it's a terrorist-run state. They started lobbing missiles at Israel because that's what Hamas does. Israel put them under a weapons blockade, not even a real blockade, because they bring supplies and fuels in from the Karim Shalom crossing. They actually get more supplies than they'd be able to produce by themselves just in their farming practices. However, if they do sign a peace treaty, which has been on the table for 70 years, they get all of Israel's desalination technology, and they'd be able to have water and food right away. So, all right, let's see. Shared, tough love, obrigado, Brazil. Oh, Brazil, obrigado. Keep going on your roll. All right, so it looks like Calgary. All right. So this is what Israel's situation is. That's Gaza. And since the March of Return, they have, basically tried to infiltrate Israel. I call it the March of Return, the invasion of peace. All right. The right of return is just the Palestinian right from the river to the sea. It's our right to destroy Israel and take all their homes and banish them to whatever. So let's not go into all the lies yet, but let's get into it. So what Gaza's doing is they're sending in low-grade weapons. They're only firing hundreds of rockets. Gaza is trying to instigate war on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So let's back up. Some of you may know, some of you might not know. Hamas runs Gaza. Hamas's main sugar daddy is preferably the Muslim Brotherhood. They are a Muslim Brotherhood affiliate. So when Mohammed Morsi won Egypt, he started financing Hamas. He was then overthrown, and they had to go back to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now remember, Iran is Shia, Hamas is Sunni. So there's tension there. But the Islamic Republic hates Jews so much, and they love financing global terrorism, right? They finance the coup in Yemen. The reason why there's a war in Yemen is because the Houthis, with Iranian missiles and technology, were able to take a coup, overthrow Yemen, and they're underneath Saudi Arabia, Iran's main ally, and that started the war because you cannot have an Iranian proxy on Saudi's border. That is a no-no. That is a geopolitical no-no, and that is how the war started, and it makes sense for politics nerds. So Iran is funding Hezbollah and Hamas. Hezbollah is a political party. It's a terrorist organization in Lebanon. They have hundreds of thousands of rockets there, and they also control Syria. So a big geopolitical term you might hear is the Shia Crescent. This is Iran's trying to get from their goal to the Mediterranean. This is part of their plan to conquer Israel. And if you think this is conspiracy talk, Iran's version of the CIA, the Revolutionary Guard, has an internal faction. Now their version of CIA, their outer CIA, is called the Quds Force, and Quds is Jerusalem. The goal of Iran's CIA is to conquer Jerusalem. So this is part of their this is part of their shtick. So they fund Hezbollah. Hezbollah says we are Iran. They say the Ayatollah is their imam. When the Second Lebanon War happened in 2006. Southern Lebanon was rebuilt in 6 months out of Iranian money. Okay, that's why Hezbollah is popular, because Iran was able to just give them money in 6 months. But here's really good news. Okay, we talked about the uprising in Iran. Iran's about to experience hyperinflation. Their economy is tanking. Trump has been fantastic on Middle Eastern policy. Fantastic. Best I've ever seen. This canceling the Iran deal is an absolute necessity. It has been the best move of his presidency. He's talking about sanctions in Iran. Iran's experiencing hyperinflation. So Iran is running out of money. The Islamic Republic is running out of money quickly. Its people are starving. Its people don't like it anymore. It doesn't have the support of the people. The Iranians hate the Islamic Republic. So this is why you're not seeing a large-scale attack from Hamas. What they're trying to do, this is a desperation ploy. Hamas knows their sugar daddy is running out of money. And a lot of this, the March to Return, a lot of the recent conflict is not about Jerusalem. Right? Jerusalem is attached to the West Bank. If the West Bank was rioting over Jerusalem, maybe we'd have a case. But Gaza has never been anywhere near Jerusalem. This isn't even a geographically coherent argument. Anyone who says, oh, the Palestinians are mad about Jerusalem and then covering Gaza, it's like, you're willfully lying. You're an idiot. You're willfully lying. You're a willfully lying ideologue. All right? And that's willfully lying ideologue. That might as well be what we rename the CBC. So the reason why Israel is not doing any military operation in Gaza right now is because they have a very, very, very interesting opportunity coming up right now. So the Shia Crescent that I mentioned, it goes from Iran. The next country over is Iraq. So this is why Israel really, really, really lobbied against the Iraq war. People like, Israel controls American foreign policy. If Israel controlled American foreign policy, the second Iraq war would not have happened. Okay? Israel was terrified of Saddam being disposed, Iran coming in, filling the void, which they did. Maliki's party was Iranian funded and basically becoming a proxy state of Iran to reach Syria, which was basically a proxy state of Iran because they are Shia, and they call Assad, Iran calls Syria its 29th province. Assad got on TV in 2016 and said, thank you to the Islamic Republic of Iran. I would not be here right now if it wasn't for the military support of the Revolutionary Guard. So Iran's military is in Syria. So you have Iraq and then Syria, and then that connects you to Lebanon where all those missiles are. If that all becomes Iranian controlled, they have full force to get into Israel and then start attacking the rest of the Middle East. This is Israel's worst nightmare. It is also Saudi Arabia's worst nightmare. And Barack Obama let this happen. One of the good things Barack Obama did, okay, this a few times you hear this show, is he did create this sort of necessary alliance between Israel and the Gulf states. So this is another thing Israel has. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states have recognized Israel's existence. That is a big deal. Like, we used to hear stories as Jews that, an Israeli athlete won a gold medal in the UAE and they don't even play the anthem, or they don't even say Israel. Israelis aren't allowed in. So I said, like, when there was a story that, Israel's now allowed to fly planes over Saudi Arabia, it's like, it's coming. And then Mohammed bin Salman recognized Israel. We actually have Arab countries that are willing to negotiate that have already recognized Israel. So we have a major piece in the puzzle that we have not had for 70 years. We have a willing Arab negotiator who has called out the Palestinians for their nonsense. So we have that. What Israel needs to do, the real threat. I mean, Hamas has, condoms filled of kerosene, and they are starting fires. And yes, there's being a problem. And yes, we can talk about Hamas and what to do here. But you cannot throw an operation in Gaza yet until you take care of the northern threat. The real threat is the Golan Heights. Now, if you don't know a lot about Israel geography and military history, welcome. I'm the nerd for you. The Golan Heights, it's in the name, it's the heights. Israel is tiny. The strategic depth is like 40 meters. But you put rockets on the Golan Height, you can reach every aspect of Israel. If you have rockets on the Golan, like what Syria did in the Six-Day War, you can just pound Israeli cities all day. It is the high point in the Middle East. Since the Israelis control the Golan Heights, it basically locks down. It's what got us peace with Jordan, and it's what stopped the northern wars. I mean, there was one attempt in the 74 in the Yom Kippur War, but as long as Israel controls the Golan, there is peace, and that is the main threat. Right now, they cannot risk a war on two fronts. So the Palestinians don't even really want war right now. That's why you're seeing protests in Palestine against the PA and against Hamas. Now, they've been brutally crushed, and Hamas and the PA have now outlawed protests. Can you imagine that? The media not covering the actual outlawing of peaceful protests in Palestine. So they claim Israel stops the peaceful protests, sniper fire. So you have people in mass saying, stab the Jews, kill the Jews. Hamas leaders saying, our point of this is to go into Israel and slit their throats. That's a peaceful protest, according to the media. But when Palestinians actually peacefully protest, which they are doing now, against the government, saying, because the Palestinians know what's Palestinian and what's Iranian, okay? The Palestinians can get a sense that this round of violence isn't in the name of Palestine. This is really in the name of the Islamic Republic to try and create some bad PR for Israel, to try and create some global friction against Trump and get into the European markets. So the Islamic Republic is kind of screwed. They are terrorist idiots, the leaders. So this is why the Iran regime change is important. So if we can just knock down the Islamic Republic, the key thing is getting the Islamic Republic out of power, taking the power away, and Iran will not descend into chaos afterwards. One of the big things, if you're Iranian, you have the fourth largest oil reserves that are being embargoed, and the second largest reserves of natural gas in the world, second only to Russia. Iran gives all its natural gas to Russia. All right, here's the deal they have with Russia. Basically, they give them all their natural gas and sell it to them, so the Russians have a monopoly on natural gas, and the Iranian economy is screwed. Right, the Iranians don't make money, but what this does is the Russians, who are on the Security Council, get help them out in Syria, and they vote for them in the UN, and they run obfuscation. They just do propaganda against Israel. The Russians, you don't really trust them in a deal. So this is sort of the thing they have. In order to be allowed to give money to terrorists and commit all their terrorist war crimes and have some sort of UN cover, they've given up their economy, basically. And the people know this, and the Iranians know this, and that's why you see them mass protesting against the Islamic Republic. That and the Islamic Republic probably killed a lot of their family and their crazy ideologues. So here's the situation. The real conflict right now between Israel and Gaza is actually Israel and Iran right now. And Iran is losing and highly desperate. This is why you're seeing Hamas, they're actually burning down food at the humanitarian crossing. So I said, Israel's providing them with food and fuel and whatever, and Hamas is doing everything they can to stop the food from getting in. Hamas right now is trying to create a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And what they're trying to do is show you like, oh, look at this starving little baby because of the Israeli blockade, and then send one flotilla in from a bunch of useless idiots out in Norway or something, and they'll bring on like a few small arms and a grain of sand, and they just want that whole flotilla nonsense to happen again, and hit Israel with propaganda. That is their standard tactic. So that's what Hamas is trying to do. But here's why I don't want a ground operation. I'm not saying don't do anything, right? They fire rockets back at them. Hit Hamas and Islamic Jihad with artillery. The reason you know Iran's behind this is there's a lot more Islamic Jihad going on right now than there usually is. Islamic Jihad is like, they're basically Iran, they're Shia, and they're like 2% of the government, but they have Islamic Republic money. Iran will always be the linchpin. Yes. Hi there, Deborah. I think 60 ISIS fighters got into Canada. Darren says 65 fighters got in Canada. Did the parasite? Yeah. So we have, this is Canada. This is whatever. Jake said, do you feel Hamas operates in Canada? Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, and we just talked about this. Yes, the Muslim Brotherhood operates in Canada, so it's all connected. So the NCCM, they'll take Hamas's narrative and go with it. Are they Hamas? No, they're all kind of Muslim Brotherhood. So instead of saying, does Hamas operate in Canada, it's really, does the Muslim Brotherhood operate in Canada? And the answer is yes, they both do. Hamas is Muslim Brotherhood Palestine, and because it's Palestine and they're only killing Jews, they can just be open with their terrorism. When it's somewhere else in the world, they have to be like, no, we're a civil rights organization. We the right to, put women in bags and all the other traditionally American things you Americans love, right? So that's that. So this is why Israel has not done a operation in Gaza. And then again, I'm kind of against these operations in Gaza. If you're going to fight the war, fight the war. If it's going to be a war, make it a war. All right. If you're going to do these operations every few years, just push them back a few kilometers whenever they get too feisty, you're just going to take the hit in the media, and it's going to go round and round and round, and nothing's going to get accomplished. Right. I'm not in that it's sort of a half measure. And Operation Protective Edge, it had a point of destroying the tunnels, which were a new thing, and they had to do that. But again, these are half measures. And the reason why I'm saying hold off is Israel needs to secure its north. It needs to secure the Golan Heights, because that is the real access point into Israel. That is its biggest weakness. That is the only place it can really be penetrated and be vulnerable. It needs to secure that. And it needs to break Iran's influence out of Syria. So this is why you're seeing Israel meet a lot with Russia. And I suspect the Trump-Putin meetings have a lot to do with this too, and Iran's in there. So what it looks like the deal is going to be, and this is my wishful thinking, this is if Trump is as good on Russia as I hope he is. The reason why he's meeting with Russia is he's kind of giving this deal to Russia. Okay, you can have Syria, because Russia's always been connected to Syria. They supported them in the Six Days War. There were even Russian troops there. We'll talk about that another time. But Russia it's its last foothold, the Middle East and the Mediterranean. Russia wants that base. And Russia doesn't care about its obligations. Vladimir Putin is a criminal. Don't trust. Listen, if you're going to do business with Vladimir Putin, buy a coffin, because you're going to get screwed over. So the deal looks like what they're going to do is they're going to negotiate. You can keep Syria, but Iran, you have to keep Iran out. That's what the Israelis are trying to negotiate. And the Israelis are fighting Assad forces and really Iranian proxies at the point. Assad's military is all dead. They've been fought a brutal civil war. It's mostly Iranian Hezbollah-backed militias. Stephen Cole, we talked about the carfentanil before. Yes, can't be worried. And carfentanil is actually considered a chemical weapon, as we said. So that was all in the first half of this episode. You go back and rewatch it. Again, tomorrow I'm going to try and get this up on YouTube, maybe cut some clips out. If you guys come back to this to Never Again next week, there'll be a links to the YouTube page and everything else you want to see. This is our inaugural episode. I hope you're all enjoying it. If you like it, tell me so. Who knows? What to talk about? Killings in West Africa. Why doesn't me tell you about it? It's not sexy. People assume people in West Africa are dying. They're just killing Christians. It's Muslims killing Christians. It's just news everyone kind of already knows. It's not that sexy. And I assume that the Muslim Brotherhood isn't happy when you talk about Muslims killing people. We see Canada going in 5 years. Jake, I'll get back to the question. I'm just going to finish Israel. Then we'll do a Q&A section. Then we'll do questions at the end. But I'll remember that one for later. All right. So just to finish this, here's what I'm saying. Israel needs to wait. Iran's going through hyperinflation. The Islamic Republic there are riots on the street all across Iran. Even in Ghazarjan, a region of 5,000 people, they're revolting. Tehran's revolting. There are uprisings all over the country. They are saying no to Islamic Republic People in the streets of Tehran have chanted death to Palestine. The social situation in Iran has changed. I can tell you this from my connections to the Iranian community, meeting Iranians there. There's no hesitation to be associated with Jews, especially for the Iranian dissidents. It's a good thing now. Like there's this sort of, cultural anti-Israelism is breaking down. There will be ways to, Iran's social demographic has shifted a lot since the uprising. Daniel, love everything you're saying except one thing. There will be a lot of fake news in order to defame him. Why do we need to add? There will be a lot of fake news in order to defame him. Add to, we can always fight later, better policy. Now we stand strong for Andrew Scheer. Yeah, I mean, Scheer is my support. I'm not going to defame him. Really enjoying this. Okay, great, Susie. Be here every week. And then hopefully there'll be more shows. I'm in the works with other networks. So hopefully there'll be a Canadian Vocus show. I hope to get as much content out there as possible because hopefully you're all enjoying this more than listening to the CBC, which again, I akin to a form of waterboarding or news waterboarding, cultural waterboarding. I'll think of a phrase later. It'll be clever. You'll enjoy it. So Israel has a negotiating partner. It has Saudi Arabia. The leader of the Islamic Sunni world is now an Israeli ally. They have acknowledged the existence of Israel. They know their real enemy is Iran together. I mean, Saudi Arabia always knew there was no threat from Israel. Israel just wants to be left alone, and they knew that Iran actually wants to destroy them. They have the Gulf states. So they have negotiating partners in peace. They can finally, Hamas and their terrorists might be strangled of funds. I almost said Obama. Trump is talking about cutting funding to the PA because, yes, they pay terrorists to do terrorist things. So they're going to lose a lot of international aid, which just goes to terrorism. And they're going to hopefully lose their main sugar daddy in the Ayatollah. If you can sort of break the Shia croissant to your north, if Israel then secures the northern border, Israel can secure the northern border. They would only have a unilateral war to fight. That would be against Hamas. Hamas wouldn't have the funds to fight Israel. And Hamas, it's the same sort. They're sending only hundreds of rockets at a time. If they wanted to do damage, they'd send thousands. But they're trying to save their stockpile to keep doing this because they're running low on arms. They're running low on funds, okay? Israel right now can't risk war because the media will turn against it and money will start to flood into Palestine. They need to strangle Hamas from funds. So if they strangle Hamas from funds, they will have cut off from their weapon suppliers, cut off from their sugar daddies. Israel will have a peace negotiating partner. It actually will be the only legitimate chance for peace. Then the Palestinians will have no leverage, no ability to conduct war. And if they still try and do the global jihad and try and destroy Israel, then you can fight a war against Hamas. You can actually thoroughly destroy Hamas. You won't just have to, send some missiles and send in a ground operation, all to repeat the same thing 5 years later. There actually is the potential for a long-term solution on the table. And Israel can't risk that. If Benjamin Netanyahu was doused with truth serum, he'd say the same thing. And this is why Netanyahu is sending all these messages in Farsi. He's trying to tell the people of Iran, hey, we can get you water, we can get you food, we are your friends. It's doing a great job. So that's where we're going. That is why Israel is not attacking Hamas right now. You might be fed up. You might have family in Israel. You don't like, they might be in southern Israel under rocket fire. But this is why the Israelis have not started a ground operation when they have pretty much all the justification to do so. Iran's baby boom has to be a factor. CBC, oh, nice. You're doing a great job. Thank you for sharing this information. Hi from Vegas. Love Vegas. Great information. Love it. So keeping people informed. All right, guys. So the last part of the show, I will try and answer any questions you guys have about the show or anything else. And then I'll say goodbye, and hopefully you'll come again next week, and I'll have a YouTube page set up, and it will be more coherent. I'll have a page to link you to that has all this content. We're just in the inaugural show. So the first question Jake asked was, where do I see Canada in 5 years? I'm actually a bit optimistic about the 2019 election. If it goes the way of Justin Trudeau, Mayday, Mayday, red alert, move to America, okay? We cannot survive 5 more years of Trudeau's policy. But I think Trudeau politically has played such a poor game. You look at his numbers in Atlantic Canada. Atlantic Canada is a Liberal Party, okay? They should have okay numbers in Atlantic Canada is about 70% support for the Liberal Party, about 70-75%. That is okay numbers. 70%, like in politics, that's a big number. He's around 50 now, okay? Again, that's still a high number, but in Atlantic Canada. He in a by-election, Quebec, there was a Quebec riding in a midterm election, went conservative. Quebec doesn't go conservative, okay? and Quebec's being hit with these illegal border crossings. And one big thing for Quebec is they always want to control their own immigration. Quebec gets pretty uptight about immigration. So this flood of illegals just through Roxham Road, this is baffled Quebec. Okay, Quebec will not stand for this. They hate Jagmeet Singh, which everyone should hate Jagmeet Singh. He is nothing. He's not even in Parliament. He's doing nothing. He's an absolute joke. So I think Trudeau's actually made enough political mistakes. I think he's lost. I think Ontario has actually turned against a lot of these liberal policies. Now, I don't think Ontario, the Conservatives, will do as well as Doug Ford did, because a lot of it was hatred of Kathleen Wynne. Kathleen Wynne. The least popular premier of all time. Premiers are like governors, if we have American friends. Her approval rating was like 16% for the last 2 years. She was awful. The worst. She makes Hillary Clinton seem almost likable, if you want. Atlantic red, only BC. People, yeah. BC is also red. Yes, there are. I was born in there. No jobs. I predict Liberal wipeout, to be honest. He will not come back. I hate saying yes. Yeah, so I think, again, I said earlier in this today, Trudeau ran to the left of the NDP in his last election. He had the privilege of the Liberals getting wiped out when Nadeau ran, of him not being the official opposition, so he didn't have to speak a lot in Parliament. And everyone realized, that's an idiot, right? He won the leadership saying, I think terrorists should keep their citizenship. And everyone laughed. And the Liberals laughed at him, thought it was a joke. Turns out it wasn't. He actually passed that law. Terrorists can now keep their citizenship. And fun fact, Canada sent more people to fight for ISIS than America did. And that's not even per capita. That's in raw people. America has 10 times our numbers, but we managed to send more people to fight for ISIS. So it really shows that this, hug and tolerance thing doesn't work. So I do predict at least a sheer minority. They're polling even. And Trudeau really, really, really could have easily been a 2-term premier, but he hasn't done anything. He ran to the left, the NDP. His first thing, he promised electoral reform. He backed down electoral reform, so he lost a lot of radical leftists there. He messed up the pipeline thing. He billed himself as anti-pipeline, and everyone's like, yeah, anti-pipeline. But then the pipeline failed, and the pipeline people were like, okay, screw this. If Canada's not going to do business, we're out. But then they had to come in and buy the pipeline as government. So it's the worth of both worlds. They pissed off conservatives. They pissed off leftists. So he hasn't really done anything to win people over. The only thing would be maybe if marijuana gets legalized, he gets a bit of a bump from the left because of that. But again, I think he's getting beaten out because when Doug Ford came into Ontario, he's talked about privatizing it, and everyone wants a private system. We do not want this public LCBO nonsense, liquor controlled, where you have to buy everything from the government. Like, look at the logo for what they proposed. Kathleen Wynne, the Ontario Cannabis Store. It literally, the brand is Ontario OCS in a circle, and they spent $500,000 on that. Okay, this is why no one likes publicly funded weed. Liberals are pretty much done. The danger will be the NDP, just like Ontario. I thought Jagmeet Singh would be a big danger, but he's proving to be a big dud of a politician, and that's not what U.S. considers a security threat for the first time in 200 years. Listen, we're not really. Well, maybe with all the people we're letting in. I think that's. That quote's taken a bit out of context. As a South American of French Canadian descent, I applaud you. Keep it up. Thank you, Susie. The only thing he has. Privatize everything. Jake, you're a man after my own heart. As a social libertarian, I agree with you. Again, I'm not a full libertarian, but I tend to lean that way on most policy. I think it's reasonable. So I don't think Trudeau's done a good job. He's going to get killed in Alberta. He'll get wiped out in Alberta. I'm not sure how BC is going to go. Will it go Liberal? Will it go NDP? Parts of it will go... So he might have lost ground to the NDP on a lot of his failures to the radical left. His stronghold in Atlantic Canada is slipping. Quebec is always a wild card in Canadian politics. Okay, one thing constant is we don't know how Quebec's going to vote, and I don't think they're going to vote Liberal this time. And Quebec is a Liberal stronghold, and I think he's really screwed a lot of his support in Quebec. Yeah, so I don't see Trudeau winning. I could be wrong. They are polling it even, and he's trying to build himself as the anti-Trump politician. Trudeau's trying to appeal to his base, and Trudeau's base is crazy left-wing Americans and Europeans. That is Trudeau's strongest base right now, and left-wing Americans and Europeans don't vote in Canadian elections. So I think he's kind of screwed him there. You're a machine, Dan. Thank you. I've been rambling on for an hour and 15 minutes now. So I think that was the only sort of question we had. I talked about a lot of stuff. So tune in again next week. Again, every Wednesday at 9, we'll do Interrupted. It will be the same format. We're going to do the news. We're going to run down the week's story of news. I will then give you a story that makes me the happiest, story that makes me the angriest. They might not be that important to you, but they just make me feel silly. And then we're going to take one topic and we're going to get in depth, and I'll explain one thing. And then we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end, and then I sign off. So these are how this thing's going to go. If you like this, tune in Wednesday nights at 9. And then by next week, I should have a page up and everything else, so you can follow along and stay tuned. So guys, thank you so much for your support. If you like the video, share it, press like, come never again. Tell your grandmother what a nice young boy I am. And guys, thank you so much for listening. I will see you again Wednesday nights at 9 right here on Never Again Canada, and hopefully everywhere else on the internet soon.